He was the most feared man in the world, an emperor who ruled through fear and possessed power that no one could rival. But in the end, he was betrayed, killed by the very people who wanted his secrets. And just when everything seemed over, he opened his eyes again. Not as a ruler, but as a weak servant boy. Welcome back to your favorite recap channel. Today we bring Manhwa Animation Part 1 to 25. Zhou Fan was once at the peak of the cultivation world, feared by all, challenged by none, but power attracts enemies. Many sects united to destroy him. Even though he fought back fiercely, he was eventually overwhelmed. But Zhou Fan wasn't careless. Before his death, he activated a forbidden technique, a technique that allowed his soul to escape. When he woke up, everything had changed. His body was gone, his power had vanished. He had been reborn into the body of a servant boy in the Luo clan. A clan that had already fallen from power. Weak, surrounded, and close to destruction, but inside this fragile body was still the mind of an emperor. Zhou Fan immediately began analyzing his situation. He understood one thing. Strength was everything. Without power, he would die again. So he began cultivating. Using forbidden knowledge from his past life, he started rebuilding his strength faster than anyone could imagine. While observing the clan, Zhou Fan discovered something important. The Luo clan possessed a hidden secret, a treasure that many powerful families wanted. This secret was the reason they were being targeted, and if nothing changed, they would be destroyed. But Zhou Fan had no intention of letting that happen. As enemies began testing the Luo clan, Zhou Fan stepped in, quietly, strategically. He didn't rely on brute force. Instead, he used intelligence. He predicted enemy moves, set traps, and turned their own plans against them. For the first time, the Luo clan survived an attack they should have lost. Even though no one fully understood what was happening, they began noticing Zhou Fan. The servant boy who always had the right answers. The one who never panicked. The one who always won. But Zhou Fan wasn't doing this for them. He was rebuilding something far greater. Through constant cultivation, Zhou Fan's strength began to return. Slowly, but steadily. Each day, he grew stronger. Each day, he became more dangerous. And soon, even powerful enemies would no longer be able to ignore him. At this point, Zhou Fan had only just begun his journey. The world still believed the demonic emperor was dead. But the truth was much darker. Because the emperor wasn't gone. He was hiding, growing, and preparing. Everyone believed he was weak. Just a servant boy, someone easy to control, but they didn't know the truth. Because behind that calm face was a man who once ruled the world. And now, he was about to remind them why they should be afraid. After the Luo clan's unexpected survival, stronger enemies began to take notice. These weren't ordinary fighters, they were skilled cultivators, dangerous, experienced, and confident they could crush the Luo clan easily. But Zhou Fan had already anticipated this. Instead of confronting them directly, Zhou Fan used strategy. He manipulated situations, created confusion, and forced his enemies into unfavorable positions. Even stronger opponents found themselves losing, without understanding why. As victories continued, Zhou Fan's influence inside the Luo clan grew. Leaders began trusting him, decisions began passing through him. Without officially taking power, he was already in control. While managing external threats, Zhou Fan continued cultivating. His growth speed was abnormal. Techniques long forgotten became his weapons. And with each passing moment, he moved closer to his former strength. Word began spreading. The Luo clan was no longer weak. Something had changed. Other factions became cautious, but also curious, because no one knew what was really happening behind the scenes. Zhou Fan wasn't just reacting anymore. He was planning, long-term, carefully. Every move he made had a purpose. Every action pushed him closer to one goal, rebuilding his power. And eventually, dominating the world once again. At this stage, Zhou Fan was no longer just surviving. He was rising. The servant boy had become something far more dangerous. And soon, the entire cultivation world would feel it. Because the demonic emperor was back.